Hey friends, I'm Heidi with Heavenly Minded Home and welcome to our daily videos that we put out here. Today is mine and the hubby's 19th wedding anniversary. So I thought it would be a little fun to come on here and share some of the top lessons that I have learned in 19 years of marriage. So let's get into it. Hey guys, I'm so glad you're here to hang out with me today. So excited. We've had so much going on, and then it's our anniversary. 19 years have flown by just like that. You guys know we've shared before. I got married. I was 17. He was 20. We had been together for like 3 years already. I found out I was pregnant. We ended up married in the middle of the week. We moved into our first home on my 18th birthday, and life literally has not slowed down since then. And so while, there's many different things we could talk about in how we went about things the wrong way, right? We didn't do stuff right. But even though our marriage struggled so much, there's a million reasons why we should have split up eons ago. We did everything under our own free will to destroy our marriage, but God, somehow, by nothing of our own doing, but by the Lord's grace to us, we lasted. We stayed together, and now it's been 19 years. I can't believe it. I remember our 10th wedding anniversary like it wasn't that long ago, and now we're like, man, next year's 20 years. We should probably do something, or I don't know, that's kind of exciting. So I thought, what a perfect way to just kind of share in a way that, not that I am the perfect wife, because I am not by any sense of the word, and there are so many things that I'm continuously trying to improve on, that he's trying to improve on, that we're trying to improve on together. But of 19 years being married since I was 17 years old, what are those top 19 things that, just as I sat here, him and I were sitting out here at the table together talking about this, what are those top things that stand out, that lessons we've learned, that I've learned, of how to be a better wife, right? How to do marriage better. And not that I get them all right, and not that I even remember these all of the time, but these are the things that when we strive to this, we start implementing this, we start doing these things and living these things out, we see that difference in our marriage. And I thought it would be perfect to share with you all here today. I do want to say, you guys, be sure down below when you subscribe, turn on those bell notifications, because we're back to podcasting. My amazing co-host and I have a very special podcast coming out tomorrow, all about motherhood. We got Mother's Day coming up this week, and it just seemed like the perfect time to talk about motherhood. But both of us were actually teen moms, so we're going to be going into kind of motherhood from that perspective, and we had an amazing conversation. It's like an extended podcast, for you all, so that will go out tomorrow. You guys be sure to pop back by so you guys can listen into that. I really do pray that you guys will find that encouraging as well. But before we get into that approach on motherhood, let's talk about my 19 lessons learned in 19 years of marriage. Lesson number one that I think is so important is to make him your number one relationship. Your relationship with your husband is the number one human relationship that you have in your life. So that would be over a friend, family members, your children even. Your number one prioritized relationship should be your spouse. It should be the same with you, right? Like, it works both ways, but we can't control other people's actions. We can only control our own. So if I start making him my number one relationship, that should grow, right? That should get better. We should start to see some progress there. I think this is a big one to do continuously, where you really stop and evaluate yourself. Is he my number one human relationship? The first person I want to go tell about something, the first person I can't wait to see, the first person I think of when I want to do something or go somewhere, or just be home, right? Who is that first human that I prioritize a relationship with? It needs to be him. And if it's not, we need to start making it one. And he's going to be like, wow, what is going on? And you're like, you are my person, and you are going to be my number one priority of a relationship that I pour into. it can be hard. I understand, especially you're bringing in new kids, and sometimes kids just need more, and it can be hard to balance it. And we've definitely had those seasons where it's like, I'm doing everything I can to just keep everybody alive, right? But that doesn't mean you want to stay there. You want him to be your number one relationship, and that is huge. That is something that is so important that I just wish we all could really understand. The second lesson I've learned, don't badmouth your husband to anyone. Other people, family members, your mom, your sister, your best friend, your kids. How you speak about your husband makes a huge impact. It makes a huge impact in how you actually see your husband, how your husband actually feels seen by you, and how others are going to see him. If you go running off to your mom, your sister, your girlfriend, the kids even, oh, your dad did this, every little thing that he does wrong, oh, my husband, oh, this, oh, right, you're just quick to point out all the negative things about him to other people. That's how other people are going to start to see your husband. And this is something that I've always felt very strongly about, that you don't badmouth him. I don't want him going around badmouthing me to everybody he knows about everything I get wrong. I sure as heck don't want to be going around and badmouthing him with every little thing he gets wrong. And I don't want my kids to view their dad as, this imbecile who gets everything wrong, and why doesn't he just do it like how mom wants it done? How you talk about your husband to other people, that's very, very important, and we need to remember that. My third lesson would be to always be learning how to understand each other. I remember this was huge in our first year or two of marriage, is when the 5 love languages came out, and we were really struggling in marriage and it wasn't going very well. And I remember that coming out and us sitting down at our computer, I can still picture it, in our first little townhouse in Southern California, and we're sitting there. I was like, honey, come do, I probably didn't say honey, but I said, come and do this quiz with me. And he thought it was kind of dumb, but I think somebody at church had been talking about it, and so it's oh, we have to do this, this will fix our marriage, right? And what was so funny about that is we found out that we show and feel loved in polar opposite ways. We did that quiz, and it was such an eye-opener for us. We were like, wow, I'm doing all of this thinking I'm showing you my love, and he's not connecting it at all. Whereas he's doing all of this to show me his love, and I'm like, what is your deal? It's not connecting. And in the same way, where I'm needing to feel loved like how I feel loved, he doesn't even know that's what it is. So we were just on different planes, different planets. We weren't even close. And so starting to understand what connects, what matters to him, what is a big deal to him, what's a big deal to you, what matters to you, how do you feel loved and appreciated, how does he feel respected and cared for, right? You have to figure out these things, and I think it changes with seasons of life and different circumstances, and so we never want to stop learning how to understand each other, right? What matters, what connects, how you feel, that's important. And I wish we would have made that a priority, to work harder on understanding what matters to each other, understanding what makes the other person tick, kind of putting ourselves in their shoes and wanting to know what matters to them, and kind of working, towards that. I wish we probably would have figured that out a little sooner, but thankful we have, and we continue to work on it each and every day. The fourth thing that I think is really important here, the fourth lesson, would be to learn how to care for him. There's a lot of things that I do that I'll say within the past 5 years even, that he has sat me down and been like, I do not care that every cupboard is organized, that everything, like things that to me are so important, that everything's in its place, everything has its tidiness and its whatever. He says this all the time, he goes, I don't care. I don't care that, this looks pristine and this is super put together. That's great. That's wonderful. This matters to me. If you want to help me out, this is where I actually need your help. And that was such a huge thing for me, because I'm like, I think I'm doing all of this for you so that your home is clean, it's organized, it's tidy, you can find things. And he's going, I don't care if I have to look around in the pantry to find the thing I need. I want this to be taken care of. And I was like, oh, so you want me to do that? Right? So this understanding, like, how to care for him. What does he need? If you're putting him first, right? I'm talking about lessons to wives. Husband, he's got his own things. He has to love you as Christ loved the church. That's a whole different department. I would not want to be in his shoes. My job is to love him, to serve him, to care for him, right? So I always want to be learning how best to do that. Are there things that I do that he's like, oh my gosh, I wish you would not do that. Like, don't put me in the spot. Please don't leave this till last minute. Please help me with this right now. Have you ever thought to ask him? Because I know I went through many seasons where I never even thought to ask him. I just thought this was the best way to do it, and so I did it that way. But learning how to care for him and what matters to him and what he's looking for, so incredibly important. My fifth lesson here, my husband actually suggested this one. He said, live responsibly. In marriage, this goes for all of us, right? But he said, the importance, the lesson learned of living responsibly. Whether that's, he's in the workplace, you're in the workplace, you're whatever it is, connections from past, relationships, or just bumping into people, or how you put yourself out there through social media, or whatever it may be. Living responsibly, taking seriously your vows, right? And living that out. People should know when you're out and about, or you're at work if you work, or you're, out at these things, that you're married and your husband is your number one human relationship. Like, people should know that. You should be responsible. We should live responsibly as spouses, right? Like, as a husband and wife, we need to live, we need to honor that, and it needs to be abundantly clear where we stand in, I need to go check with my husband, or, I'm not putting myself out there because my husband's not here, or whatever the case may be. And there's so much to that. I mean, we could have a whole series just on that, but understanding that lesson and living that is, I know, something that we both failed miserably at for far longer in our marriage than I care to even try to calculate right now. And I wish we would have got that sooner, because we would have saved ourselves a ton of heartache on both ends if we would have figured that lesson out much earlier than we did. So my sixth one comes from my husband as well. Joint response here. We say get married young. I love that we got married young. Now, it wasn't in the right way. We didn't do things the right way. We thought our lives were over, like all of that. But now, hindsight being 2020, looking 19 years later back at it, I am so glad we got married young. I pray that if that is something in my children's future marriage, that it happens young. I think there are so many positives to getting married young. I think if we go all throughout civilizations and history, and you can go back and back and back and see the different way that marriage was handled. And I think there's a lot that we can learn from that. And I think that kind of our whole scene and way of doing it in like modern Western society is very backwards and has caused a lot of problems. And so I'm thankful we got married young. I am glad we did. And while we messed up and we didn't do great in many different circumstances, I think it ended up being a great blessing for us as well. And so I say, get married young. That's wonderful. And I'm so glad that we did. The seventh lesson that I've learned in these 19 years would definitely be dress up for him. I think it can be easy to become a little more relaxed, right? You kind of like lose that but then we would talk about this, and thinking back to when we were dating, we dated for 3 years before we were married. And, I would get dressed up to go out to dinner with him. I would do stuff. I wouldn't just, it mattered to me what I gave him. And I didn't want to just give him my whatever, right? I wanted to give him my best, and I want that to continue. Now, that doesn't mean that I walk around in like high heels with 10 pounds of makeup on and whatever, right? I want to know from him, like, what do you like? I want to know your input. What do you like that I wear? What do you like if I wear makeup or don't wear makeup? Do you like my hair? Do you like, I want that input. And I want him to want my input for him as well. But dressing up for him and giving him that, like, I don't want to just give him me in, ratty, stained up pajamas all day long, right? Like, I want to give you something to look at, right? Marriage is a very special relationship, and this is the only type of relationship you have like this in all of life. I want to give him my best. I want him to think I'm pretty. I want him to like what I'm wearing and how my face looks and what my hair's like, right? I want him to have all of that, and I want him to want that. So therefore, I want to give him my best. Now, yeah, I mean, sometimes I am in whatever and I'm all outside. Like yesterday, we're outside working, I'm sweaty, I've got like tree debris in my hair, and I look a hot mess, right? So that happens. There's days when, no makeup goes on, no nothing happens, and that's fine. It's not about having to be someone you're not, but the point is to give him the best of you. I want the best of him, so I want to give him the best of me. I want him to want to be proud of his wife, to want to still think that I'm pretty even, 20 years later. Like, I want that, and so I want to give him the best. The 8th lesson that I think is so incredibly important is to intentionally grow together. And I think what happens often is when we're not intentional to make sure that we're still growing together, you kind of just by default can start growing apart. Right? If I am not intentional in building up my home, I will by default probably let things start breaking and crumbling and falling to the wayside. I want to be intentional and make sure that we are purposefully continuing to grow together till death do us part, especially having gotten married really young. I think that's one of the culture's kind of biggest reasons of why you should wait until you're older to get married, because, well, you become different people and you don't know if you still want to be together, and it's not how marriage works. Grow together. Doesn't mean that we're the same person and we haven't changed at all in the 23 years we've been together. We've grown together, but we've been intentional to do that. We didn't always get it right, but it's worked out. And we want to make sure that we continue to grow together as we get older and the years continue to tick by. My 9th lesson, which I think is very, very important as a wife, very, very important, is to learn when to bite your tongue, and, like, just importantly, to learn when to speak up. Understanding biblical womanhood as a whole, which we're doing another study this summer. It's 5 years of doing biblical womanhood studies over the summer. I'm so excited for it. Understanding my role of when I need to just shush, bite my tongue, even if I'm over here gnawing it to bits and pieces, that's huge. And I feel like the more I did that, the more I just shushed, that stopped having to have my 2 cents thrown in at every little quip, the more I really started to see the true times when I needed to step up, when I needed to say something privately and to him and, respectfully and all of that. But what are the times when you actually do need to say something? Because they can be just as damaging if you needed to step up and say something and you didn't. And so knowing and continuing to grow in that, bite my tongue, let him say what he needs to say. Now I need to step in and say something. I need to speak up. Understanding those two, very, very huge. This one is huge. Lesson number 10, and one that I think is very, very commonly done in our society. And I think that's what has caused this to be very normalized. People just don't even realize it. But lesson 10 would be, you are not his mom. So stop acting like it. When we joke, and I think we've all done it, I mean, even innocently, of, oh, he's just my, 5th child or whatever. Or, oh gosh, if I didn't do this for him, he could never get through, or whatever. You're not his mom. Your job is not to raise him as a child, right? Like, stop acting like his mom. There's knowing that line of I'm here, I can care for you, I can do that, but it is honestly much easier for me to simply pick up the dirty laundry that is on the floor instead of in the laundry basket and set it in the laundry basket than for me to go chase him down, find him, wait for him to get home from work so I can belittle him like a child for the fact that he does not comprehend how to put dirty laundry into a laundry basket. Now, the ideal here would be for your husband to go, oh wow, the laundry basket's right there, let me just set it in there instead of on the floor next to it. I understand that. I'm not confused, right? But I'm not your mom. I remember telling my husband this when we first got together, because this is the first time either of us have lived out of the home, right? We went straight to everything. And I remember telling him, like, if you want your mother to follow you around and take care of you, then you need to go move back in with her. Because what the heck? We have to realize that our role here is not to be mom. It is to be wife. And there might be some things that kind of overlap and have some connections, yes. But if you continue to try to play the mom role to your husband, it doesn't go well for anyone. It really doesn't go well. And I want to remember that. I am his wife. I am not his mother. I love his mother, and there are some things that we might have in common, but I am not his mom. So I don't want to be treating him as if I were his mother. That's a big lesson. The 11th lesson here, this can be a really hard one for people to actually implement. Let him lead, mistakes and all. Sometimes you're going to have a better answer, a better approach, a better whatever. Sure, it's going to happen sometimes. If he asks for your 2 cents, or you feel it's, hey, I would do it like this, if you feel like it's one of those times that maybe you should step up, that's great. You need to let him lead. God is very clear in his order, in his system of how this goes. And it's that the wife is the head of the children, the husband is the head of the wife, and the children, right? He's the head of the family, umbrellas down. God is the head of all. If I want my husband to be a leader, if I want him to come to the faith, be a godly man, grow in this, do this, I've got to sit down and actually let him lead. Sometimes he'll lead wrong. Sometimes he'll make mistakes. Sometimes he'll get us in a really bad situation that if we would have listened to my idea, we wouldn't be in, right? It's always easy to say that. But you need to let him lead. And if he's ever going to get better at it, you've got to get out of his way and stop trying to be the little puppeteer over there, moving his every little action. I feel like men are so emasculated today, and it's causing so many issues in our world, especially in our marriages, especially in our families, for our children, for all of it. We need to let our guys lead. And we need to lift them up in that and support them in that and be behind them in the good decisions they make as well as the bad decisions they make. Not that we're condoning sin or anything like that, but sometimes our calls we make are just the wrong calls. But guess what? I'm still here for you. And I've still got you, and we'll do better. We'll dig out of it. It will improve. Right? Something will happen. The Lord will take care of it. He will guide us and lead us, and we'll learn from this. But your husband should feel your support across the board in his leadership. The 12th lesson that's so important, and there's great books and different, talks and things on this, but men naturally need to feel respected, whereas women naturally crave more that feeling of love. The more respect I show him, the more love I'm going to feel. The more love I feel, the more respect I want to show him, right? It goes round and round and round. It feeds each other. And if you're out of sync and that's not happening, somebody has to be the bigger one to say, you know what? I don't feel very loved right now, but I'm going to show you respect. Because the more respect I show you, the more love I will start to feel, right? It works together. It's a cohesive unit. But remembering that he naturally craves your respect, just like you naturally crave wanting to feel loved by him. And that is really, really important to understand that he needs that. And maybe you don't feel like he deserves your respect, right? Maybe you're struggling, maybe you have some whatever. That's a hard issue you have to tackle, you have to work on, and you need to work through so that you can get to that point and you guys can heal and move forward. The 13th lesson that I love so much is that you need to make home a retreat for him. For all of you, your whole family should feel this, but we're talking about wives to husbands, right? He should feel like when he comes home from whatever it is that he's out there dealing with, even if he works from home, right? Like if he works for whatever capacity, whatever it is that he does, he should feel like when he gets home, it is his retreat from the world, right? It is his place of just, I'm home, I'm with my wife, I'm with my children. When your husband walks in the door and you can't wait till you've heard about my day. Well, you were off at your job, I was having to do this, right? If he walks in and you're just giving him, okay, here's all the stuff you got to go deal with. This is broken, this needs to be fixed, I'm out, right? Like, you're not a tag team. You're not a tag team where he walks in the door and you're like, all right, I've had enough, peace out, good luck, I'm going to go rest. We're partners and we're there to work together. And there are times when I go, oh my gosh, I need a minute, right? And that's okay. But he needs to feel welcomed. He should feel like he wants to come home. He can't wait to get home. He wants to be there and have, a delicious dinner and maybe, something nice to do with his family. We want him to feel like home is his retreat. And it makes me so sad. I hear from so many women, their husbands work all the time. They're always gone. They're always doing this. They're always doing that. And then sometimes I'll spend time with women and I see what their home life looks like. And I go, I'm not condoning or making an excuse, but can you blame them? Would you want to rush home to that? Would you want to rush home after working your rear off all day to get berated about what's not done, what's needed, what, you're like, just bulldoze. Like, why would you want to rush home to that? I'm not saying that makes one right and the other wrong. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying let's think about that. Do you greet him with a kiss every day when he walks through the door? Have you prepared a meal or at least planned something, right? It doesn't have to be extravagant. Is home a retreat for him, for you, and for the whole family? Why do you think biblically us being keepers of our homes are such important and worthy roles to have? Because especially in a chaotic, evil world, having home be a retreat is a really big deal. The 14th point here that is so important, because again, there's only one relationship in all of your life that has this checkbox, right? This extra little, when you look at those like mind maps and then there's the one little offshoot that goes over here. This is the only relationship that has that. And that is your intimacy. Don't neglect it. Do not neglect that layer of intimacy in this relationship, because it's the only relationship you have in this life that has that little extra part, right? That has that piece there. And so when we go on bad-mouthing him, neglecting it, being too busy, being too tired, being too whatever, and that whole part just kind of, that's not good, guys. It may not be your top priority, but it's probably at least in the top of his. Don't neglect that. That can look different for every different marriage, but it needs to be there. It needs to be a priority, and it needs to be something that is important, that is special. And far too often, just in our culture, it's something that, it's just kind of kicked off to the side. The 15th lesson I think that's so important is never stop being friends. Yes, he's my husband, right? There's so many different things. He's a dad, he's this, right? There's all, but he's my friend. Because until death do we part, he's the number one human relationship I should have in my life. And I want to make sure that friendship is there. That friendship is intact. I want to enjoy being with him. Because what fun is it if you don't even enjoy being together, right? Like I want us to enjoy. I want us to have things that we enjoy doing together, that we talk about, that we think are funny, that, it doesn't mean we agree on everything and we're totally into every single thing, but I want to be his friend. My husband loves baseball. He loves the Dodgers, is what he loves. We used to go to Dodger games together when we were dating back in California. I don't really care. Baseball's okay. I don't have anything against it, but I just don't really care. I learn about baseball so I can watch baseball with him, so that we can have conversations about baseball, because he enjoys it. It's not an idol. It's a different topic, but he enjoys it. It's something he enjoys. We'll sit down and watch a game together. I pay attention and I start to learn. I kind of give the guys nicknames because I can remember that easier than some of their names, and then he has to learn my nicknames for the people, but it all works out, right? I want us to be friends. He does the same thing. He's learned all about flowers. He comes out and we'll talk about garden stuff with me. We'll be out places and he'll go, ooh, did you see that, right? Those are friendship forming bonds that we have. Don't neglect that. The 16th lesson that I think gets forgotten way too often. And really, I feel like you don't see it very much, especially in younger couples, but hold hands, hug, kiss, cuddle, have a little PDA. When you walk by him in the house, give him a kiss. Get up and go greet him as he pulls up every day from work. Give him, we sit on the couch and cuddle with him. Go for a walk and hold hands. They're little things that I feel like we just don't see very often anymore, and we should. He's your guy, your one. Show him that you love him and give him a little bit of that. A little bit of PDA is a good thing, okay? I am probably your least PDA person in the whole wide world, okay? But those little things of just holding hands when we are walking somewhere, walking by, I always try to make sure to give him a hug or give him a kiss, or, maybe rub his head, or, do something, just, rub his back, just something. It's important and it should be there. My 17th lesson, which is so important: be quick to forgive and extend grace. I know me and my flesh, I want to be quick to be annoyed, angry, frustrated, judgmental, whatever, but I can't be. If I profess Christ, I'm a new creation, and Scripture is very clear about what that means. If I want to see my marriage flourish, this relationship really grow, I need to be quick to forgive and to extend grace and say, you know what? From little things to big things, that's important. I'm not here to just keep a record of all the wrongs he has committed and just be ready to pull him out and bash him over the head at any given time. That's not what I'm here to do. I need to remember that. Even when I'm frustrated, even when I'm mad, even when I'm like, oh my gosh, what is your problem? He could be legitimately in the wrong, right? I need to remember to forgive, to extend grace, and to work through it, right? That doesn't mean that things don't get brought up. That doesn't mean that serious things don't get addressed. Doesn't mean that we never approach, some sort of seeking counsel or anything like that. And I'm not saying that I overlook his wrongs and let him just continue on in his sin and I go, well, I'll forgive him. There's processes, obviously. But if we're not talking a sin against the Lord, I show forgiveness. I can extend some grace, just like I would want done for me in that exact same situation. The 18th lesson is not only we talked about how we talk about him to others and how we kind of approach that. Don't belittle him to his face or make him feel as if that's how you see him. His perception of how you see him is important. So you don't want to be adding fuel to that fire. where you're like, oh my gosh, you always get this wrong. Oh my gosh, let me just do it. I mean, I remember my husband a couple years into marriage telling me that, I was like, why don't you ever help me around the house? And he was like, why would I? Anything I do, you go behind me and you redo it anyways. I was like, oh, that's a fair point. You're right, I do. But to him, understanding the fact that he felt belittled, he felt so insignificant, like a small child who couldn't even do a simple cleaning task, because I constantly came in behind and was like, nope, I do it this way. I want it this way. You're doing it wrong. I was belittling by those actions. And even if it's not something that you're meaning to do or you're realizing you're doing or something like that, if that's how he's viewing it and that's how he's feeling from whatever you've done or said or whatever, you need to be aware of that and you need to take that into consideration. I mean, we have these conversations where my husband has even said, oh my goodness, I feel like I failed you. I've let you down. And I'm like, are you crazy? No, you haven't. And it's not that I did anything to make him feel that way. It's how he felt. But then we're able to open that up and I go, I don't feel that way at all. I don't even think that. That is not even in a thought. But understanding that is important because then we can be on the lookout for different opportunities where I go, see, no, I don't feel that way. I think you're doing great. I love this. I'm happy. We're good. And we can build upon that. So it's important not to belittle, but also not to leave him to feel that that's how you actually feel about him. Because you don't want him to feel that way. You wouldn't want to feel that way. And then the 19th lesson here in these 19 years of message, that of course is the biggest piece in all of this. Scripture tells us that by a believing spouse being obedient to the Lord, even an unbelieving spouse can come to a true saving knowledge of Jesus by our actions. And so if you want your marriage to be awesome, to be amazing, you want your husband to be your best friend, you want to grow together, you want all of that, as we all should, the closer you grow to the Lord, the more you live by Christ's example, the better your marriage is going to get. Plain and simple. Be it you'll be changed, he can become changed, you'll grow in your knowledge of the Lord, he'll maybe come to the Lord. Doesn't necessarily happen overnight, doesn't necessarily happen, in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. The closer you grow to the Lord and the more you live in obedience to him, I promise you, the better your marriage will get. And there it is, friends. That would be my top 19 lessons learned from 19 years of marriage. And I pray that this can be a blessing and an encouragement to others out there. You guys will have to let me know down in the comments below. How long have you been married, right? Anybody else celebrating any anniversaries? What things on this list really stood out to you? Or what things would you add to your list of things that you've learned in your marriage? I can't wait to see y'all's comments. Of course, you guys be sure you subscribe, tap that little notification bell so you see tomorrow's amazing motherhood podcast. I'm so excited to share it with you all. If you want a little something else to watch, might I recommend this video right up here. I think you'll enjoy it. We're gonna go enjoy our anniversary and we will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, friends.